I know there's new people, so yeah, my name is Evelyn. I guess kind of want to touch up a bit what Clea said last week. So basically, we had that like big fight and stuff, and before that, we were just kind of fighting and stuff. And that, to be honest, out of our whole life, that was like the biggest fight we had. Like, and then literally we ignored each other for like 2 weeks or even 2.5 weeks. It was like really long. I don't really remember. But to be honest, I'm not afraid of like siblings be telling each other and stuff. Like, I'm not afraid. I'll do it. Like, if I'm mad, I will like tell on Clea and David. But this one had to do something serious, and I knew that if I didn't say anything, it would have actually turned really ugly in the end. And the thing is, even though it wasn't my problem, I was like, you know what, like, it's on her, like, God's judgment is on her. Why do I have to worry about it? But then I was talking to pastors, and, of course, I came to a realization, if I don't say anything or do anything, God's going to put that on me, because the blood's on my hand now, because I knew about it. I knew about the situation, and it was really bad. So if I didn't say anything, my life is just going to be stuck. I'm not going to be moving higher. I can't serve God or I can't get, blessings in my life, and whatever the case may be. So, and then when my flesh actually wanted to be like, don't tell Evelyn, because this was serious. And, but I knew my spirit was speaking to me. And I think it was, the Holy Spirit telling me to tell pastors about the situation. Because I can't go and correct Clea because, she's my older sister, my authority. And yeah, you shouldn't ever like correct your authorities. You have to go to a higher up to do that for you. So and when I did that, Clea found out, when I told on her, she got, she was of course like mad in the moment, but after a while, once we stopped ignoring each other and we came to a middle ground and an apology in the end, and Clea now is like very grateful that I told on her, because even though in the moment it looks like the person is mad at you and they're like, why did you tell? In the end, they're actually going to be really grateful. And, you don't want to mess up their life. Even though it looks in the moment that they don't want you to tell, in the end, they're going to come to a realization that they're grateful. Even for me, even like when pastors correct me, I'm like, oh, like sometimes I don't want to listen, right? But in the end, I always think about it and I'm like, wait a minute, they are right. And then when I think about their correction towards me and I apply it, I'm like, actually, wait, they were right in the end. And that, I come to an end realization that, I'm grateful for the corrections and discipline, because, the reason why they're not disciplining us so they can make our lives miserable. They're disciplining us so they can make our lives even better, and so we can glorify God. And I just want to talk in the Bible. If you guys remember, there's this priest, I think, Eli, and he failed to discipline his children. And the thing is, his sons were actually seducing young women in front of the tabernacle. Basically, that's like a holy temple of God, and they're seducing young women in front of them. But the thing is, Eli, he did kind of correct them, saying, oh, don't do that. Like, that's not right. But then his sons weren't listening. And then the thing is, Eli, he honored his sons more than God. And because of that, he stopped disciplining them. He stopped telling them to stop seducing young women in front of the tabernacle. And then that's when, Samuel came. And then Samuel was like, he got a word from God and told Eli. And then God basically told him, I'm going to carry my threats against Eli and his whole family from the beginning to the end. And he's warned their family already. And now he's going to bring judgment upon his whole family forever. And see, the thing is, it's not just his sons. It's also Eli. Eli didn't seduce young women in front of the holy temple. It was just his sons, right? But since Eli, he knew about it and he did do something about it. You can advise them and tell them to stop. But then if you're not going to report to the higher authority, like, for example, Eli just, I don't think he even went to God about it. And I don't think he even prayed about his sons. I think he just wanted to, he didn't want to displease his sons. He cared about his children more. But because he failed that and he cared about what they think, now that the whole judgment is on the whole family. He could have saved them by constantly going and correcting them and going to God, but then he failed to do that. So I think that's one thing that, whether that's our family, our household, it's so important. And I feel like in the Bible, it's very important as an authority and the person who's running the house, or just in general authorities, the church, whatever. It's very important because there was this one person who stole. I think it was in Judges. He stole like God's reward, right? And then Joshua was like, "Who did it?" And then in the end, that man, he came and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I did it. I'm sorry, God." But then Joshua's like, it's too late now. And then they killed his whole family. They didn't kill that man who stole the idols. They actually killed his wife and his children. And even though they didn't do anything, they suffered the consequences. So I think it's very important as authorities and just, as yourself, you're always evaluating yourself and you're making sure you're making the right decisions in praying and reading, because your whole household, your children or whatever, is also going to be affected by it. And I also want to say that for me, I never like thought I had like discernment or wisdom or anything like that. But I've always asked God in prayer. I said to God, help me, give me discernment and wisdom so I can lead your people, so I can lead the worship team and everyone, just everyone. And also I don't want to be prideful about it, because you can't just think, oh, I have discernment, oh, God's leading me. Because if you guys remember, there was an Amalekite or whatever, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but you know how King Saul killed himself, right? And the Amalekite, he went and reported to King David, saying like, "Oh, I killed King Saul. King Saul asked me to kill him, and now here's his crown I brought you, and his there was like an armband or whatever." And then King David was like, "How dare you? That was God's anointed one. Like, you can't just kill him, because that was God's anointed one." And that, I'm pretty sure that Amalekite, he wanted, of course, like blessings. But in the moment, he probably thought he had discernment, thinking like, "Oh, didn't I do the right thing?" King Saul is literally trying to, he's sinning against God. He's not obeying his instructions. And plus, King Saul hates you, So that's probably what the Amalekite does, thinking he has discernment, saying, But I wanted to let you know that I killed King Saul." And he did lie, because King Saul actually did kill himself. So that was actually on him too. And I just want to say something about just something these days I've been realizing, that I think when I was like unhappy before, I think I was just living, to be honest, for myself, and I thought I was living for God. But I think I was living for myself. And then when I was praying, I came to a deep revelation. Yeah, I don't think I was living for God. That's why I'm getting unhappy when things don't go my way, or like little things are bothering me, and I'm getting irritating so easily. And I'm like, wait a minute, like if I'm living for God, I wouldn't care about these stuff. I wouldn't care if I'm, like better, or like if I don't have this or that, or this is not going my way. And I just realized that, and I was crying in prayer, because I asked God to give me. I asked actually Pastor June that, how do you feel the joy of the Lord? And she told me, if you have a purpose of you want to save souls truly and genuinely, you're gonna feel that way. You're gonna feel the joy of the Lord. You're gonna feel like life is worth living. So when I was in prayer, I was crying, because I felt really bad for those souls out there. And to be honest, like, yes, beforehand I was like, yes, we have to save souls, yada yada, but I never felt it truly, and and I never really stabbed into my heart until in that prayer. And yes, I did repent for telling God I'm sorry I was living for myself. And now that I'm like trying to because you can think that you're living for God, but a lot of people, we can get very deluded very easily, thinking we are living for God. But I think you have to really evaluate, and you have to ask God in prayer, am I really living for you, or am I living for myself? Then why am I getting offended? Why am I getting mad? Why I'm just so irritated, So I think you really have to come to that deep revelation. And I just also want to point out that you're not gonna feel so angry and competitive and jealousy. This is in general for everyone. Because in the Bible, when King Saul, he actually loved King David at first, because King David, when he killed Goliath, King David found favor in him. He was like, oh, I'm going to raise you up now because you killed that Goliath, you know? But the thing is, as King David, he led the army and he kept killing like thousands. This is when King Saul got jealous. And this is where I was like, when I was reading, I was like, okay, King Saul, he's living for himself. Because when the people cheered that King David killed 10,000s, and then King Saul killed thousands. And then that's when King Saul, that could have been a test from God, who knows? But King Saul got jealous. And then that's when the jealousy, hatred, competitive anger in his heart, it grew. And that's why he wanted to kill David. Because he got jealous that, like, even if someone gets more than you, why should you be jealous or feel competitive? Then that's when you're living for yourself. You're not living for God. So, and then you don't want to stumble like that in your life, because you're going to watch everyone's going to go higher, everyone's going to be glorifying God, and then if you're just stuck in your little bubble thinking, oh, they did more than me, but I was here earlier, then you're just going to be like King Saul, who'd be like, why didn't I kill 10,000? Why did I only kill thousands? And if you think about it, the big picture, that's still a lot of people. Thousands is a lot. And he was very popular, that he killed a lot of people. And I don't think there was a lot of people in that moment that could kill that many people and you're still surviving. But then King Saul failed to realize, I still did glorify God. I still did really good. But no, he just looked at David and said, why couldn't I kill more? Or like, why are the people loving you more? And then, okay. I'm out of time. But yeah, I think that's just something we have to really evaluate ourselves. If you're living for God, you're not gonna care about what people think. You're not gonna care if you get more or you don't have as much as the other person, because you're happy that, as long as you're glorifying God, that's all that matters. Because you don't want to be like Eli, who was afraid to go after the children, and you don't want to be basically like King Saul and that Amalekite. So yeah, okay, I'm out of time, but.